Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today is the day we are finally getting to the end of the year, so it's time to talk about my 10 favorite movies of the year. Yes, so I've seen 15 movies actually. I just caught up with a couple movies the last couple days, trying to binge watch and try to get all through the movies that I want to talk about or that might possibly make my list. And some did definitely, some definitely made not the best list maybe, but my worst as well. Anyway, so yeah, so I got through 50 movies this year. I don't know if that's good or bad as far as how many movies I've watched, but yeah, I was able to come up with enough to come up with a top 10 best and top 10 worst, which I'll probably do top 10 worst movies tomorrow, get that done. But today we're going to talk about my favorite movies of the year. Now, these aren't necessarily the best reviewed movies of the year, most acclaimed movies, biggest box office movies. These are movies that I just really enjoyed watching. And some of them might be a little silly, some of them might be a little stupid at times, but it's mostly about what did I have fun watching this movie? Was I entertained? And that's what makes my list. It's like if I felt entertained, if I wasn't bored, if I had a good ending, good characters I enjoyed, if I laughed or whatever, you can make my top 10. And so there's going to be some hot takes here. There's going to be some movies that get my top 10 that you're going to think, what, that, a top 10? There's some movies that got really bad reviews that are going to get my top 10 because I really had fun with them. Yeah, so these definitely isn't going to be your typical top 10, I think. In fact, I feel like most of my movies are going to be movies that are nobody else's top 10. They're just personally my favorite of the year. So saying all that, let's get to the list. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody had a good Christmas a couple days ago. I actually went and saw a movie and did a movie review, A Complete Unknown. You can see that on my channel. Last video I did. So, yeah, that was fun getting to go out to go and see a movie on Christmas Day. It was something to do, instead of just sitting home doing nothing. But yeah, so yeah, again, the year's almost over. And what a crazy year it was. We had the Olympics, I believe, earlier this year. We had a presidential election. We had one of the craziest presidential campaigns I've ever seen in my life, but don't want to get into all that. But yeah, let's get into some of the best movies of the year for me. So let's start with number 10. My 10th favorite movie of the year is Juror number 2. Yeah, Juror number 2. This actually saw just like 2 days ago, I think, on HBO Max. This is one I've been really kind of anticipating, actually. It's directed by Clint Eastwood. Obviously, probably maybe his last movie he'll ever direct. I think a guy who's hit or miss for me as a director. I mean, very good director. I don't always love his movies, but sometimes he makes some pretty good stuff. And I can always, go into an Eastwood movie, be intrigued, knowing that there'll be something interesting there, I think. He can do a lot of interesting stuff as a filmmaker. Yeah, so this is kind of under radar, I feel like, movie. And oh, I forgot to say, one of my guidelines or one of my rules this year, I decided is that I'm only gonna put movies in my top 10 that were in the movie theater and I can buy a physical copy of. So no streaming movies on my list. So yeah, nothing from Netflix, nothing from Disney Plus, nothing from any of that stuff. Amazon. Yeah, because I think it's much more interesting to talk about a movie that was in the theater and I can buy a physical copy of. It's much more interesting because it's very easily accessible for everybody to watch. If I only talk about movies that are on Netflix, it's like people that don't have Netflix don't have access to the movie. So I kind of hate that. I hate that stuff like Netflix, streaming services, put stuff on their streaming service that you can't buy physical copies of. I really hate that because there's a lot of good movies out there I don't have physical copies of because you can only get it through a streaming service. So I decided instead of talking about movies that came out on streaming service, I'd rather talk about movies that actually came out in theater and you can go out and see in the theater. Anyways, I think it's much more interesting and fun to talk about. Anyway, so I forgot to say that. So these are all movies that came out in the theater and you buy physical copies of, basically. So I said that because Juror number 2, I saw this on HBO Max a couple days ago. And I thought at first this was like an HBO Max strictly streaming service, but from what I researched, I think it did get a little bit of a theatrical run. I don't know if it did around where I live, But it makes me think that hopefully there'll be a physical copy of this, I guess. If I can get a physical copy of this later, then, that's what counts for my list. So I'm going off the basis that I hope this becomes a physical copy at some time, a Blu-ray I can buy at some point. Anyways, but yeah, Juror number two. Yeah, it's a courtroom kind of drama. I'm a big fan of courtroom dramas. Nicholas Hoult is the lead actor here, and I really like Nicholas Hoult. He's been putting up some really great work lately. He's definitely an actor that anytime I see him in something, even like Renfield, I thought he was great in Renfield. It's like anytime I see him in something, I go, man, he's just an interesting actor. And so I thought he did absolutely really good job in this movie as the lead character. It's definitely an interesting premise, and this isn't spoiling too much because it's in the trailer, I think. But the whole plot of the movie is that he's juror number two, of course, in a murder trial, and as he finds out, he doesn't know this until he hears the accounts of this murder that they think took place, that he actually was there that night at the bar where these two people were at, this couple, and he was driving home in the rain and he hit something, and he thought it was a deer, but now he's thinking maybe he hit this woman that they think got murdered. Anyways, and that's a big plot point, I know, but it was in the trailer, so hopefully I'm not spoiling too much, but that's kind of the basics of the whole thing is like, does he come out and say, oh, I think maybe I killed her on accident, and then, risk going to jail himself, or does he keep it quiet and let an innocent man go to jail? So that's the whole idea. It's a very good premise, very interesting. Like I said, yeah, I like the whole premise. I wish this could have been better, though. It's only number 10 on my list because there's always this point where I feel like, oh, someone's going to find him out and we're going to have a cool moment where someone's going to go, oh my gosh, you were there, And he's like, what? And then he has to figure a way out of it. Like, we never really got that great moment. And even the ending is so ambiguous. Like, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen to this guy. Is he going to be caught? Is he going to go to jail? We don't know. And so I kind of hate that the ending left us so, up in the air. Like, you just have to go, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Just your guess is as good as mine. I would love a satisfactory ending where you go, okay, this is what's going to happen. So it kind of hurts the movie that I didn't have a real great ending to it for me. But I do love some of the moments. Like, it definitely reminds me of like 12 Angry Men. Not nearly as good as 12 Angry Men. That's a masterpiece. But I do like a lot of the movie is the jurors inside debating the trial. And of course, he's coming from a point of view is like, he could say he's guilty, and then once he gets convicted and goes to jail, then he's probably scot-free. But instead, he's trying to get him off because he knows he's innocent. So it's a very interesting dynamic. And I think they really do a good job talking about the biasness of people when they talk about something like this. Because they're not basing their who they're voting or what voting guilty or not guilty based on facts and evidence, but based on their prejudices of this guy. One guy says, oh, he's a gang member, he has a gang tattoo. These gang members, they never change, and Nicholas Holt's character is like, people do change. Maybe we should consider that maybe he did change, And so I love that idea that it's like, oh, people probably aren't getting fair trials. It might be very true that you're not getting fair trial based on your prejudice. Anyway, so a lot of good ideas there, some good performances overall. I wish the ending was a little bit better, but still, I'm putting Juror number 2 here at number 10 on my list. All right, number 9. Number 9 is going to be a big surprise because this is not a movie that people liked, but I just saw it yesterday, and I liked it enough to put it on my list here. So number 9, I have Borderlands. Yeah, Borderlands. You're going to say, what, Borderlands? That's like one of the worst movies of the year. Yeah, I'm surprised as well that it made my top 10. I was not expecting this movie at all to get my top 10. In fact, I just caught it. I just finally watched it the other day because I was like, oh, this looks like it could be a fun movie, so I'll check it out. It probably is going to be bad because it got really bad reviews. It's some of the worst reviews of the year. It did really bad at the box office. It's considered one of the biggest bombs of the year. And I remember seeing one bad review after another. And a friend of mine, Ryan Conway from Ravens Fan 09, I believe, I think he gave a review and he didn't like it. And I think I put in the comments that, oh yeah, this movie's getting bad reviews all across the board, And he said, well, you might like it because it's an action movie and all this, and it might be up your alley. And it's a funny thing, Ryan knows me pretty well. He knows what movies I like. And so it's funny when he said that, I was like what, me? No, I'm not gonna like this movie. It's getting such bad reviews. And then I watched it the other day. I was like, why is this getting such bad reviews? This is a really fun movie. Again, Borderlands is not a great movie. Like, I'm giving like Juror number 2 and this, I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I'm giving it just a light recommend. So it's not a movie that I was overwhelmingly like loved and like want to watch again necessarily right away. But it's not a terrible movie like everybody's saying. In my opinion, like and again, I've never played Borderlands video game. I know nothing really of the video games. Don't know the characters, none of that. So it's all new to me. So I don't know if you played the video game, if you're a fan of the video game, do you think it doesn't represent the video game? I don't know that part of it, so that didn't hurt me at all. But overall, like it's an action adventure movie with a lot of comedy in it, and I love those kind of movies. That's definitely my type of movie, an action movie with comedy, and that's exactly what this movie was. Now, the overall story, was it great? No. Was it anything, you know, was it groundbreaking? No. It's just a typical fantasy story of, these, it kind of reminds you of like a Guardians of the Galaxy type thing, where you get these group of misfit outlaws kind of people, maybe not all outlaws, but a misfit of people together, and they're fighting the common enemy. And first they don't get along, but then they learn to get along, and then they have a lot of action sequences, and one of them is the key to there's a vault that they need to get into, and one of them is the key to the vault, So it has that fantasy aspect to it that we've seen millions of times. So nothing great new there, but it's like, did I like the characters? Yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed the characters. I thought they were fun. They had a good dynamic. I kind of like these kind of movies where you get, like, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I love I really like Suicide Squad. I really love the idea of getting different characters, interesting characters, and putting them together, and they're a bunch of misfits, They shouldn't be heroes. They shouldn't be together doing this thing, and yet it works really well. So I kind of actually like that. It's not as good as those movies, but I like that aspect of it. As far as action goes, I thought it was actually a really good action movie. And again, yeah, I am a big fan of action movies. I do watch a lot of them. Uh, I always love to, just put an action movie on and turn your brain off kind of thing and just enjoy what you're watching. But yeah, I thought the action was really good. There's several shootouts, and fight scenes, hand-to-hand fight scenes that I thought were done very well. And I was like, wow, okay, I like what they're doing here. I like how it's shot. Especially like Kate Blanchett. And I think a lot of criticism is that Kate Blanchett is too old for the role. To me, again, I was like, I don't know this character. I don't know how old she's supposed to be in the video game. So to me, it didn't matter how old she was. Kate Blanchett still looks pretty good. She's like in her 50s, and it's like, yeah, she's still in really good shape. She has a cool look to her. I thought she did a good job. Is this kind of role beneath her? Yeah, sure. She's a 2-time Oscar-winning actress. But, sometimes Oscar-winning actresses like to have fun. And if you want to say, well, she was just phoning it in, I go, well, she has the right to phone it in. She has 2 Oscars. Let her phone it in and have some fun. And I had some fun watching it. And I really just liked her double pistol thing. She had like these 2 pistols, and they had some kind of mechanism that makes them like do a turn. And I actually thought it was really cool because she would shoot, and then it'd do like a little spin, the pistols, the spin and the shoot, spin, and she was doing all these cool moves with the pistols and them spinning. I thought it worked really well. I was like, that's a really cool kind of weapon, and how that all happened. Anyways, I thought Kevin Hart was actually pretty good. I like Kevin Hart in certain roles, and I think he was also criticized because the role he took was supposed to be more of a serious like military guy, and they gave it to Kevin Hart, who's a comedian. But Kevin Hart is actually in pretty good shape himself. He's always been in pretty good shape. And even though he's short, the whole thing is he's short. But I don't know. I think he still worked in action. I thought his action scenes worked, and yet he can also give a funny line. To me, it worked overall. The other character that gets a lot of flack, I think, is it's Claptrap. I think his name is robot that's voiced by Jack Black. And I've heard a lot of people say that he's the most annoying character, and they hated his character, and he ruined the movie. I thought he was the best character in the movie. He made me laugh, and this is why I put it up here in number 9 on my list. I laughed a lot in this movie. Like, I laughed throughout the whole thing. A lot of that's because of Claptrap. He said some very funny things, jokes, just a great sense of humor, and all this action and seriousness, and he'll throw a one-liner, and I'll just start laughing. Anyway, so I actually love the character, love the humor that he brought in. So yeah, for me, yeah, I know it's not a movie you think could be my list, but gosh, there's so many darn boring movies that came out this year. I mean, you'll see my top 10 worst movies list. Just so many boring movies. I'm just bored to tears. People just sitting in rooms talking about God knows what and just boring me. I like a movie like Borderlands where there's a lot of action and adventure. They're moving around, doing different stuff. They're on a mission. I don't know. I like it. So here, it's number nine, Borderlands. All right, number eight is a movie I talked about recently because I went and saw it in the theater, and that is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yeah, I made it in my top 10 again. A couple years ago, when I first did I think I did my first top 10 movies of the year, I put Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in there. So, yeah, so both Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 have made my top 10s. And again, it's a very silly movie. It's a little over the top at times. The humor is a little immature. I think definitely the humor definitely would go more to kids. Like I think if I was 10 years old, like this would probably be my favorite movie of the year because the humor would probably hit me a little bit more. But I don't know. I like Sonic. I like the whole Sonic trilogy. I like all three movies. Like the first time I saw the first movie, I was like, I didn't expect to like it at all. I was like, oh, just some cash grab, video game movie based on a character, a popular video game character that has no story or character really or whatever. But they actually created a really fun character. Ben Schwartz, who does the voice acting, is a very funny actor. I thought he does a great job with the voice. So they really created a really fun character that I really like, Sonic, and that goes a long ways for me, I guess, when I watch these movies, and I always go, man, I really like this character. He's just so fun. Um, yeah, and so I kind of knew I probably would like this movie, and again, I don't love it. Like it's a 3 out of 5 stars. It's like a light recommend. It's not one I'm like dying to go see again necessarily. I do want to get the trilogy, of course, and there's gonna be more. There's gonna be a fourth movie for sure, but definitely love to get the trilogy on Blu-ray at some time and go through them. That's how much I kind of enjoy. Like I said, I don't love the series, but I like it. I enjoy it quite a bit. I like the action and I like the comedy again. I think it's a good combination there. And obviously, the real MVP is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is absolutely hilarious. Dr. Robotnik. Again, Dr. Robotnik is not supposed to be a funny character. It's the villain of the video games. It's trying to kill Sonic. Yet they came up with this idea of putting Jim Carrey in there and making this really funny physical comedic role that it was never supposed to be. And Jim Carrey just rises to the level and makes the movie so much better. It makes the character so much better. And he's just having a lot of fun. I mean, it just seems like Jim Carrey's just goofing off, having fun, and I'm enjoying it. He's definitely the best part of the movie. I definitely like in this one. You get two Dr. Robotniks. You get Dr. Robotnik, and then his grandfather, another Dr. Robotnik. And so Jim Carrey's playing two different characters and playing kind of through movie technology is playing against himself, and both characters are very funny, of course, because it's kind of the same character. And again, love his scenes and stuff that they do with those characters. Especially love the one scene where they have to go across these lasers and they're wearing these laser suits, so the lasers aren't penetrating them. And they, for no reason at all, they said, "Hey, why don't we do a dance while we walk across these lasers?" And they do a dance. I love it. I'm like, yes, I'm all for it. Do more. Jim Carrey just go unleashed. I'm so happy Jim Carrey's back doing movies. I know he's probably gonna retire pretty soon, maybe after this movie, but glad we got him for three Sonic movies. He definitely proven that he's one of the best physical comedians of all time, anyways. But yeah, overall, yeah, Sonic 3 very silly, but it's like, man, if you like the silliness of it, and again, it's kind of a family film. I like that aspect of it. But yeah, if you like silly movies with some, I think, decent humor in it and some good action. Again, story is not that big of a deal, but I enjoyed it, had fun with it. It's here at number eight, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. All right, number seven, it's going to be another movie that's going to be maybe surprising. A lot of people probably would not put this on their list. I really enjoyed this movie, and that is Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. At number seven on my list. Yeah, this is just a fun, dumb action movie with a big lizard, a big monkey, and they're fighting other big creatures. Boy, did I have fun with this movie. And I actually did, again, it's another one of those. I remember when it was coming out, everybody was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. Who cares about Godzilla, Kong, whatever. And I kind of felt that way too. I was like, I'm getting done with these Godzilla Kong movies mostly. I know everybody talked about Godzilla minus one. I did not like that movie. Everybody's like, Godzilla minus one's way better than these movies. I'm like, I disagree. I think these movies are way better than Godzilla minus one. I thought it was just a bore fest of a movie. These movies, Godzilla and Kong movies, actually got a lot of fun in them. I think the special effects are really good. Like that's one of the things I really marveled at when I was watching this and going, wow, these really the creature design, the facial expressions like King Kong makes. I mean, they did such a good job special effects wise. That's why it really goes a long ways, I guess, for me. I go, man, I know they're not real, but man, it's you can almost believe they're real the way they're created. This is definitely more of a Kong movie, which I kind of like. I think I like Kong a little bit better than Godzilla, mostly because Kong has a little more personality in him, so he's a better lead character because you can kind of see in some facial expressions of like being sad or being angry or whatever. I think to help the character, and I like the character arc of in this movie, Kong, who's in the Hollow Earth. He's alone. He's like, man, he's fighting these other monsters that live there. And he's like, man, I just like to meet other Kongs, and uh, have a family, friends, whatever. And then he meets a group of Kongs, and he's like, oh, there are other Kongs like me. Only they have a fierce leader named Scar, I think. If I remember right, I think his name's Scar or something like that. And of course, typical name, if I remember right. But anyways, but their leader is, very evil and, doing terrible things. And so Kong now is coming into fight Scar and, help everybody, help the repressed, Kongs. Only this Scar has a pet dragon that he gets to control. It's a little too much for Kong, so Kong goes to Godzilla, who's still on the Earth, fighting other monsters, and says, "Hey, buddy, can you back me up here? I need some backup. This guy has a dragon. Can you help me out?" And my favorite scene in the movie is when Kong goes up to talk to Godzilla, and Godzilla's like, "Oh, round two, let's go, time to go again." And all of a sudden we get a Kong Godzilla fight. I'm like, wow, round two, like we got the whole movie about Godzilla fighting Kong, and I didn't expect that to happen in this movie. And we got this great amongst these pyramids, and they're fighting amongst the pyramids or whatever in the scene. It's a great action scene. Actually, probably my favorite scene in the movie is Godzilla and Kong fighting again. Even though it's like they already settled this, but then Kong's like, no, 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 I'm not here to fight you. I need you to help me, because these Kongs are gonna come up here and they're gonna take over the world. So let's take them out in Hollow Earth, anyways. And so then we get a great team up of Godzilla and Kong. I think the action sequences at the end are really good. Again, the least amount of humans, the better for the movies. I think they do a pretty good job. Is they do bring in some humans. They have some humorous moments with the humans. But to me, the star is the Kong and a little bit of Godzilla, but mostly Kong. I think that's the way it should be, and that's what helps the movie for me. Again, it's fun action, big monsters fighting each other. I had a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. So it's here at number 7 on my list. All right, number 6 on my top 10 movies is going to be Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. One of the funniest movies I saw all year. Another movie that I wasn't expecting to love or like that much. And again, these are now getting to 3.5 stars. So with Godzilla and Kong and then Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, it's going to go up a step to from 3 to 3.5 stars, which to me is like a very solid movie. One I think you definitely need to check out if you haven't, and one I definitely want to watch again. Anyway, so yeah, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, yeah, and again, sequel from a movie that happened a long time ago. Normally doesn't work. Normally it's hard to capture that magic if you have a successful movie like that. We've seen that fail so many times, and so I was like, I didn't expect it to be that good. And I'm not that big a fan of the original. The first Beetlejuice I think is okay. I mean, obviously Michael Keaton is so good as the main character, and the main character Beetlejuice is a fun character, and that's what makes the movie so fun and interesting. And also Tim Burton's weird style is interesting. His dark, quirky style, works very well in that movie. Yeah, so when I finally got around to watching this, and I was like, wait a minute, like I was having so much fun with it. I was laughing quite a bit, especially with, of course, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is definitely one of the greatest characters, I think, one of my favorite characters now in movies. I'd love to see more, actually. I'm thinking, man, let's make some more Beetlejuice movies because I love this character. And it's funny because he's kind of a villainous character at times. At times, he's kind of helps the main characters. He's kind of ambiguous that way. Like, is he good? Is he bad? Like, he's almost like a villain that you like in some senses, but he's not like a terrible evil ultimate villain by any means, like some other ones that you get. But anyways, Michael Keaton still got it. That's what's crazy. When I was watching, I was like, wow, Michael Keaton hasn't lost a step. And Beetlejuice is still it's just as good a character as it was back when it came out in the 80s or whatever, the first one. Um, but yeah, story wise, again, I don't know if it's like the greatest story, but again, I had so much fun with it, and I actually kind of Tim Burton's another hit or miss director for me. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. He's a little too weird sometimes. But the weirdness actually really helped this movie because that's what made it so interesting of a movie. And his design style was so good. It's very dark, of course, and but the I thought the costuming was excellent. I thought the makeup was excellent. I thought the set designs were really good, especially when they get into the afterlife and you're kind of learning about this whole like, this kind of made up, idea what the afterlife is going to be like and how do you move on, and it's very, you have to get in line, a lot of lines, and it's kind of funny to look at afterlife where you're just getting in lines and it's a lot of paperwork and lots of clerks and bureaucrats and stuff like that, and so it's kind of funny to look at the afterlife. That's not true, obviously, but I do love all the weird characters that you meet have great character designs, like I said. This definitely should get a nomination for makeup and definitely makeup. Costuming would be awesome as well. I don't know that it can win those. It's not a big enough movie maybe for that for the Academy, but to me, if I was given an Oscar, I'd give best makeup to Beetlejuice. I think it was really good stuff here. But yeah, like I said, love the Beetlejuice character because he just does whatever he wants and he's magical, so he can do anything from nowhere. And he does silly stuff sometimes that makes no sense just for Beetlejuice to troll people, I guess, or just to be funny. And I kind of like about the character that he's just like you never know what he can do. He can pop out anywhere, be any kind of character. Like in one scene I love is when they first Winona Ryder's character first comes into the kind of afterlife, whatever world, and with her fiance, whatever, and they pop it. All of a sudden, they're in like an office, and Beetlejuice is acting like a marriage counselor. He's like, "Oh, I'm the marriage counselor," and he goes in this whole spiel. And it's like, why are we doing this? Just to be funny, and just for Beetlejuice to do what he does. And I love it. I was like, yeah, I love it. I love that he just does this for no reason, just to be funny. Also good characters. Like I really liked William Dafoe. I thought was a funny character in here as well. We get this Beetlejuice ex-wife character. I thought was great. There's also this great scene. Probably my favorite scene is when they're at this wedding, and Beetlejuice makes again just these weird magical powers where he makes everybody sing to MacArthur Park, and it's this whole and they sing the whole song and this whole dance thing, and people are floating. It's a fun scene again, and just like wow, I was like, man, I'm really enjoying this. Like I'm enjoying this way more than I expected to. Yeah, so that's why it's here, all the way at number 6. I think, in my opinion, best comedy of the year, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. All right, getting to my top 5 favorite movies of the year. Number 5 is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine. So no surprise, this movie makes my list. As you can see, I love action movies. I love comedies. This is another just perfect movie for me in that sense that it's what I love about watching these kind of movies. So fun, so entertaining. It's the third movie in kind of the Deadpool, I guess, franchise, and of course, I mean, this was my most anticipated movie of the year. This is the movie I really wanted to watch. This was the first movie I saw in the movie theater. I actually saw like 4 movies in the movie theater, which I don't watch very many movies in the movie theater, so you might think 4 is not very many, but for me, it's like quite a bit. But yeah, this was definitely the movie I was like, I have to see this in theaters. That's how much I was really looking forward to it. Deadpool, like the first movie, I think it's great. It's one of my favorite superhero movies. The second Deadpool is okay. I think there's the good parts. I don't like the overall story. And this one, I think I like. Man, it's hard. I don't like as much as the first one, but it might be my third favorite in the franchise. I think I like even less than Deadpool 2, but I still really like the movie. And a lot of it's just the story isn't my favorite storyline, and I hate what they do with Vanessa. They made such a great love story with Deadpool slash Wade and Vanessa, and then they kind of screwed it up in the second movie and this movie again. I'm like, I need a movie where they get together and they're happy and we have a happily ever after. I really I want that. So I hope they're not done with Deadpool yet. I hope they do a storyline again with him and Vanessa. Vanessa was hardly in this movie again, and she was hardly in the last movie. So man, come on, bring back Vanessa. She needs to be a bigger part of these movies, I think. I think that's a big messed up for them. But anyways, but obviously you bring in Hugh Jackman, who retired as Wolverine some time ago after he made Logan. So he's retired that character. It was like he's never coming back to do Wolverine, and here we got him. We got him back to do Deadpool and Wolverine. So that's so cool that getting Hugh Jackman back in one of my favorite characters of all time, Wolverine. Definitely my favorite X-Men, one of my favorite all time. Yeah, since I was a kid, I was a huge Wolverine fan when I was a kid watching the cartoons and reading the comic books. So yeah, definitely love seeing him here. Great use of the character. And obviously, it works so well with Deadpool because Deadpool is kind of this fourth wall breaking, very funny character with Ron Reynolds. And then you got the Wolverine that is so serious, you know. Especially this one's a very kind of sad, tragic, kind of serious Wolverine character. And so they play off each other very well, of course. The action's like not the best action I've seen out of these type of movies, but it was still some good stuff. I think definitely the best scene in the movie, the absolute best scene in the movie, is when they have to go up against a bunch of Deadpools that they bring out of other multiverses, and so they have to go through all these Deadpools, and it's like this really cool, like, you know, side-scrolling camera shot, seeing them fight all these Deadpools and a lot of violent deaths and all that, but they all can regenerate, so it's like doesn't really matter. But still, it was a fun scene. And definitely the best part is when Wolverine pulls over the scowl that covers his eyes, because we've never seen that in all of the X-Men movies, Wolverine movies. We've never seen him in the yellow suit, which was really cool to see him in this like classic yellow kind of suit. And we never seen him pull the scowl. And when they're about to fight the Deadpools, and he's like, "All right, you know, let's go," and then he pulls the scowl over, like, when I was in theater, like that's when I like really geeked out. Like, like I think all of us that have been longtime fans, we geeked out in this movie, and that was my geek out moment. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he put the scowl over his head! Oh my gosh, he's doing it!" Like I was so excited in the movie theater. Like I got goosebumps, and even today, if I see that scene, I just get goosebumps. Like I didn't know I needed that, but man, I needed that in my life. Wolverine pulling over the mask thing. Oh, it was so cool seeing him in the full suit with the takes out the his claws, and those two go to town. And who knew Madonna's like a prayer was just like the perfect song for the. It's a, I don't know how you put like a just a this you know, I mean, good pop sound from the '80s pop song, and somehow it works in this very violent action scene. I loved it all. It was so in the slow motion and everything. Oh, it was so good. That's definitely the best part of the movie, I think. Oh, the other thing is the cameos. This movie has the best cameos I've ever seen in a movie that I just kept me going, what? Like, it's like, and I know you I hate to spoil everything, but when Channing Tatum, I'll just say when Channing Tatum shows up, that was my favorite cameo. Because I know the whole history behind Channing Tatum, and you know, wanting to be Gambit and trying to get a Gambit. He's been trying to get a Gambit movie made for years and years, and it's one of those things where it just fell through. Director would quit. They write it, and then they would say, the screenplay's not good enough, and they kept going back to the drawing board. And it's like that movie never got made. And then Channing Tatum really wanted to be Gambit, and then we got Channing Tatum as Gambit. That was like the coolest geek out moment. Again, I'm really showing my nerd, you know, colors as a movie nerd. And comic, you know, nerd and all this. When I saw that, I go, oh my gosh, Channing Tatum, he's always wanted to be Gambit. Now he gets to be Gambit. Like, to me, that was one of the coolest, like, not everybody would get that joke. And, like, I got the joke. Like, that was made for me. Like, that was a joke made for me and people like me that are like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to see Channing Tatum as Gambit for such a long time. And now they did it. I never thought I'd see it. And I'm like, oh, and I liked it. I was like, yeah, let's do a Gambit movie. I thought he was great as Gambit. Why have we not made a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum? Anyway, so love that. You know, obviously some other great cameos in there as well. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, overall, what can you say? It's a fun action movie. And I do love the Deadpool character as well, and Wolverine. I don't know if we're ever going to get another Deadpool and Wolverine movie, if this was the last one. Again, Hugh Jackman's getting a little bit older. I don't know how much longer he can do this character and get those six-pack abs, but I mean, if he can keep doing them, like I'll keep giving them money. It's like you make the thing, I give you the money. Like that's how it works. Do it and you'll make money. So anyways, yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine at number 5 on my list. Number 4, another surprise on my list. This is the movie I've been talking about. I feel like anytime I'm on a channel and talking about surprise movie of the year, this is the movie I talk about. and it didn't get good reviews, but I really liked it. And number four, I got Trap. Trap, kind of a thriller movie by M. Night Shyamalan, starring Josh Hartnett. Yeah, and M. Night Shyamalan's gotten such a bad reputation right now because he's made so many bad movies in a row. He's kind of tainted. As anytime you see his name as a director, you think, "Oh God, him? Like, this can't be any good." So unfortunately, his name is ruined about every movie that comes out because nobody trusts him as a director anymore. And I don't even really trust him that much as a director because I've there's several movies I haven't watched because he's directed it, and I go, I don't like that director anymore. And I loved him when he first came out with The Sixth Sense, Signs, The Village, Unbreakable. I thought he did some really good stuff early on, but then he made so many bad ones with The Happening and Lady of the Water and Avatar and Last Earth. It's like, oh my gosh, one bad movie after another. But I'm gonna come and say he's back with this movie. This is now probably my second favorite or third favorite, maybe my third favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie. I thought he did. I thought it was great. And again, I've seen so many bad reviews. I've seen a lot of lists that have Trap in their top 10 worst movies of the year. So yeah, this happens every year. Every year I find a movie that I'm like, wow, this is so good. And then I find out nobody likes it. And I'm like the only one who likes the movie. And I put it in my top 10 favorite movies. And everybody's like, what? This is one of the worst movies of the year. And it's like, yeah, I don't understand it. I really liked it. For some reason it worked for me. It didn't work for other people. And it's like hard to explain. Why does that happen? I don't know. It just does. When I watched it, I was totally enthralled in it. I was totally thrilled. I was on the edge of my seat, like what's going to happen next. And there's some twists and turns that happen that I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And yeah, so when you do that, I'm totally into the movie. I was totally vested in it, totally throughout the end, anyways, and totally entertained. And so that's why I make it already number four. I like a good thriller, and I thought this did the job. I thought it was a unique premise, actually, with Josh Hartnett. Again, I'm not spoiling anything because it's in the trailer, but Josh Hartnett is kind of the main character, is a serial killer called the Butcher, but nobody knows it, of course. And then he goes and he has what's interesting, of course, is that he's actually like a good family man. He has a wife, he has a daughter, and he seems like a really good dad. Like he's really loves his daughter. And he's taking her to this concert, this pop star. And he sees a bunch of SWAT people and surrounding the arena, and then he finds out that they got tipped that the Butcher is going to be there at the concert, and so they're going to try to catch him. And so now he's like, oh no, I'm the Butcher. I got to figure out how to get out of the situation without getting caught. Interesting premise, actually, to make the villain your main character, and you're thinking, gosh, how's he going to get out of the situation? But I don't want him to get out. I want him to get caught because he's a terrible serial killer. And the fact that he seems like a nice guy, and he's Josh Hartnett, so he's a good-looking guy. He's nice, and he doesn't seem like a serial killer. So there's a lot of interesting aspects to that. What I like about the movie is, of course, there's a couple things when I was watching, going like, okay, first off, how did they know that he was going to be there? But they explain it later in the movie, where I go, okay, that makes sense. They actually did a good job explaining it, because I was like, this. At first, you're like, this premise doesn't make sense, but I thought they did a good job explaining how it happened. And I've heard a lot of people go, oh, the movie doesn't make sense, and I go, I don't know, it made sense to me. I mean, yeah, there's some coincidences, as happens in any movie. Things have to have some coincidences happen to keep the plot going, or not the movie stop right away. You need a whole movie, so you gotta have conveniences. But it doesn't bother me too much most of the time. What I like about this movie, though, is that I think you think the whole movie is going to take place at this concert arena, and I guess not to spoil too much, but it doesn't. He actually gets out, and maybe a little halfway through the movie, he gets out, and then we follow him as he still is, things happen where he's still, trying to not get caught. And I love that. I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting him to, I thought the whole movie was going to take place in one place. I love that they went and got out of there, and the plot kept going, and I kept going, wow, what's going to happen next? Anyways, and there's a character that seems like a minor character in the movie that ends up being like a major character, and she ends up being like someone who's trying to stop, trying to catch the Butcher. And I love that about the character. She's like very brave. She goes out of her way to risk her life to save somebody else's. So I really like that about that character. And yeah, and it goes in. Like I said, I was on the edge of my seat. It went places that I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen now? How is she gonna get out of this situation? Because now she's with this serial killer who she knows is a serial killer, and she's in danger. Anyways, So now there are some things that happen that don't make sense. I'm still like, I don't get what happened there. I don't know why. I'm still like intrigued, and a lot of it's because Josh Hartnett I thought gave a really great performance. At first, he just seems like a nice, uh, good dad, kind of character. But then as the movie goes on, you start getting some of the creepiness out of him, and by the end, he definitely goes full creepy, goes full, serial killer mode, and you go, okay, now I see him being a serial killer. Like at first, like I don't see this guy being a serial killer, but then by the end, I think Josh Hartnett kind of took that where there's some craziness behind him where you go, okay, he is a little crazy. And Josh Hartnett, I thought, did a really good job kind of subtly showing that throughout the movie. Whoops, until you get at the very end. So I actually really thought he gave one of the best performances of the year for me, which I never expected out of Josh Hartnett, but I thought he did a great job anyway. So, and I know major criticism is the girl who plays the pop star in the movie is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. And so a lot of people said, oh, this is bad nepotism. He put his daughter in the movie, made her a main character, and all that. And there's scenes where she's singing, and he's just trying to promote her. Because it turns out I didn't know this. I didn't know she was his daughter until after the movie, and then I found out. I was like, oh, that's his daughter. And then I found out that she's actually a pop star in real life, like not a famous pop star, but she's actually a singer in real life. So in the movie, like she's actually singing, and she's good looking. So I'm like, I don't see any problem with her being in the movie because I'm like, she looks like a pop star. She's good looking. She sings pop star type songs because she does in real life. It all worked out actually. It's actually pretty good casting in my opinion. A lot of people said she couldn't act. I thought she did a good job. I thought she did some good acting. And so a lot of people are criticizing like, oh, Shawn put his daughter in there who's terrible. And we had to listen to her sing. And I'm like, I didn't mind that at all. And I thought she did a good job. I don't know. It was just weird. That's one thing where me and other people just had definitely different opinions on it where I'm like, I don't get what all the hate is about, this performance and about the fact that he put his daughter in there. It's like, yeah, of course, directors always put their kids in movies and spouses. That's just something you do in Hollywood. And if I could, I would do the same thing. You want to help your family, so I have no problem with that. But anyways, Trapped, surprisingly a really good movie, all the way to number 4 on my list. Number 3, I actually bought this movie the other day. I was happy to find this at Walmart. And so I can talk about here number 3, and that is Transformers 1. Yeah, Transformers 1. Another movie that I was expecting to love. And I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, oh, that's interesting, I guess. Like, uh, definitely don't want any more Michael Bay Transformers movies. Those movies are terrible. So I was like, oh, I like this idea. No humans. Like, to me, that's the worst part of the Transformer movies is the humans. So I was like, that's kind of a good idea. Take out the humans and just have the story about the robots. Actually, not a bad idea. And animation form is actually probably a good way to show that. Even though I think the special effects in the Transformer live actions are pretty cool, it definitely works probably better as an animation movie. Anyways, and so, but I wasn't like excited to see this or anything. But then I've been hearing good reviews. People are like, "Oh, this is actually a really good movie." I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out." And so I checked it out. Oh my gosh, I thought this movie was really good. I mean, we're going from 3.5 stars to now 4-star movies. I think 4.5 actually. I think I'd give this a 4.5 star, almost a perfect 5-star movie. It's that good. Yeah, and I'm like, was not expecting that. And I do love animation movies, um, and all that, but I'm not like a huge Transformers fan, but I mean, I was a fan as a kid. I used to watch the cartoons and had the action figures as a kid. So in some ways, I've been a long time fan of of the Transformers as a kid and all that. But yeah, this is such an interesting story where we had the two main characters. Uh, Now they're not called the characters that we know them by, which I loved actually the movie how they had a real cool story. They had a cool kind of world building, place and good lore that really helped the movie. But I like your two main characters are best friends, which turns out to be Optimus Prime and Megatron. But they're not called that. They're called like Orion Rex and something else. And they're just minors, and they're not like, and they're good friends, which are like, wow, I never thought of. At first, I'm like, why would Optimus Prime be good friends with Megatron? But I thought that was kind of interesting, actually, as it went out. I thought the dialogue was really good, and it was pretty believable that they were like best friends. A lot of good stuff there. But yeah, overall, the story was really intriguing. I love the characters. Like I said, I think overall, really well written movie. I love Bumblebee. He's one of my favorite characters in the movie. Of course, Bumblebee has been like in every Transformers movie. But he's definitely was a comedic character, the most comedic character in the movie. voiced by Mako Keegan Key. Definitely a very funny actor and did a great job voicing Bumblebee and has so many funny lines in it. And then we also have I forget what her name is, but she plays a big part, and I'm even forgetting who I think it's, yeah, Scarlett Johansson, I believe, did her. Anyway, so great characters, very good dynamics, very funny. I'd say this movie was really funny, and that really helped again. Like, not only was it a good story and there's some good like action sequences in it, but it was hilarious. Like, I laughed so much throughout the movie. I think that's what makes me love this movie so much and why it's so high on my list. And when I go, man, you definitely have to watch this movie. It's definitely one of the best movies I've seen all year, and definitely one of the best movies maybe I've seen of all time. Might even make like a future top 100 favorite movies list. It's so good in my opinion. I have to give it another watch now that I got the Blu-ray, which is pretty cool. But yeah, there's so many cool moments. Like I said, again, I love the storyline of there's this like mythical kind of the Optimus Primes, and they have this like leadership matrix of leadership, I think that's called, and it's been lost through time because they need a true leader to get it. Anyways, I guess I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say Orion Rex goes from this to Optimus Prime at the end, and that moment when he becomes Optimus Prime and he gets the voice and he gets kind of the upgrade. Oh my gosh, that was such a cool moment where I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna become Optimus Prime. Like, that was such a great moment and such a cool story that they really did a good job building up to that moment. You go, oh yeah, the leadership matrix leadership thing. It goes to Optimus Prime. That's why he becomes Optimus Prime. Such a cool idea. I even love when he says, roll out. When he does that for the first time, you're like, oh, he said the thing, roll out. Like, I loved it. And the first time they transform was really cool because for most of the movie they can't transform into vehicles and whatnot. And then they have that moment in slow mo where they all they do all the sound effects and they transform into a car or whatever. That was a really cool moment. You're like, oh my gosh, they're transforming. So I actually love the fact that they did the storyline where it's like they were kind of nobodies and then they become the Transformers. And yeah, I thought that was great. I can't say enough. It's a excellent movie. One of the best storylines I've seen all year. So entertaining, so fun. Yeah, definitely check out Transformers 1. Made all the number 3 on my list. All right, number 2 on my list. This was my favorite movie for a long time until recently. It got beat by another movie, but my number 2 favorite movie of the year is The Wild Robot. And got to buy this at Walmart. Got the Blu-ray now. Really happy. I need to get some more, but Deadpool and Wolverine was like sold out at Walmart. There was no more left, so I have to wait till they get some more of those. And yeah, but glad I found this as well. My third and second favorite movie. But yeah, this movie, man, this is another one where it's kind of under the radar. It's a DreamWorks animation movie. I didn't really know much about it. I saw a trailer and I thought it looks okay. And then I heard a lot of good reviews. And finally, when I got around to watching it, oh my gosh, it was so good. Way better than I expected it to be. I thought it could be good too. I was like, oh, this could be good. Like, I was expecting, something out of it. Boy, did it deliver. A story about this robot named Roz who crash lands on he's supposed to go be basically like a servant robot to humans. And that's its programming, is to help humans basically. But the ship crash lands onto a deserted island basically. And now it's not, no humans, but a bunch of animals. So now it's got to adapt to these animals and try to figure out what's its purpose now. Because its purpose was to help humans, but there's no humans. So now Roz is trying to figure out what to do. And then you meet all these great animal characters. There's the fox character, uh, played by, I think, Pedro Pascal, who does a great job with this fox character. Fox character is such a great character as well. Love that he kind of meets him, and at first he's trying to manipulate Roz. Roz is very easily naive, doesn't understand, lying and manipulative behavior, and so she kind of does stuff for the fox, who's really doing stuff for himself, is very selfish. But then he eventually like turns around and becomes a good character and a fun character, and very likable. I love the possums. The possums are so funny. This mother possum with all these possum kids. Some of the best lines in the movie come from those, from that family. Very funny. I love that. They have to play the possums. Yeah, they have to play dead, and one does it a little over dramatically, and they're like, stop showing off, just die, just pretend to die. There's so many great scenes like that. Yeah, right away the humor just got me. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie again, just like Transformers One, it is so funny. It's one of the funny. These are like, I would say, The Wild Robot and Transformers One, probably the two funniest movies of the year where I laughed the most. Not necessarily comedies. I mean, they're animation, movies with really good stories, but the humor works so well, and it does in this one too. I love the humor, and I love Roz. Roz is such a great. I'm almost gonna say it's probably my favorite robot character. It's hard because I love Wally. Wally's a great robot character as well. And there's probably some other ones I'm not thinking of that you can probably say, yeah, there's all these great robot characters. But man, I love Roz, played by Napita Nyong'o. Man, it's such a great character, such a likable character. Again, just trying to learn about, how to help these animals. And I love the fact that she comes in, and I say she because it's Lupita Nyong'o doing the voice. But she comes in, all the animals are scared of her, like, what's this monster? They've never seen a robot before. And like, there's this monster in the forest. And then by the end, they all become friends. Like, I do love the whole character arc with all the characters. All of a sudden, because she helps them out and does a lot of good stuff for the other animals. And so they learn to really like her and all that. Of course, the main storyline is, of course, as you can see, is with this little duck. She kind of has a mission to help this duck because the duck gets orphaned and needs to learn how to fly so she can be with a group to fly, south of the winter or whatever, migrate and all that. And so she kind of raises this as like her own kid, and she actually becomes it's a robot. She becomes very emotionally attached to this duck, whatever. I think it's a duck. Um, uh, and the duck gets, thinks like the robot's her mom. And so I love that whole relationship. And again, so many great scenes of the duck growing up, and she's trying to do her best of raising this duck, even though she's a robot, not a duck. And so lots of great scenes there, and a lot of emotional scenes, of course. Like I said, you can tell from just the scene. It's a very emotional movie at times. So that's why I loved it. That's why I like it just a little bit better than Transformers 1. I got a little more emotion out of this movie where I was like emotionally involved with the characters. Besides it being a really great story overall, great story arcs, and being very funny, it has all that in it. And very satisfactory ending that definitely brings on a good emotional end. Really, like I love these characters, I love the story. Yeah, just incredibly written movie, I think, and really greatly animated. Like I love the animation. It's a really cool looking movie overall. And yeah, I can't imagine anybody not liking this movie. I think anybody I've seen talk about this movie gives it a really good review, and I'm among them. Almost was number one, but stops at number 2 on my list, The Wild Robot. So what is number 1? What is my favorite movie of the year at this point? And this might seem like recent biasness because I just saw this on Christmas Day. I saw this movie in the movie theater, and when I was watching it, I was like, this might be my number 1 favorite movie, and that is A Complete Unknown. It is my number 1 favorite movie of 2024. And again, it might be recent biasness because I just saw the movie in the theater, but I love this movie. Again, it's like a 4.5-star movie, I think. It's a biopic of Bob Dylan with Timothy Chalamet playing a young Bob Dylan between 1962 and 65. So Bob Dylan is like early 20s, and it kind of showcases him going from a nobody that comes to New York City, wants to, play music and kind of get known in the folk music. And he becomes friends with Pete Seeger, who helps him get on the scene. And then he's with contemporaries like Joan Baez and becomes friends with her and all this, and kind of showcases, his rise to the top as like one of the, not only greatest folk singer of all time, probably, and one of the greatest folk writers of all time, but just being one of the greatest musician, singer-songwriters, great, artists of all time. Definitely, anytime you see a list, Bob Dylan's on a list. And I like Bob Dylan a lot. I have a number of his albums, or I have a couple of his albums, but I like a lot of his albums, early albums especially. So this movie is like definitely another movie. It's like, man, this movie was written for me. Like, there's some great Bob Dylan music in it. I love the performances. There are so many Bob Dylan performances and that's what I love. This is, and I said this in my review. If you want to know how to do a good biopic, this is the blueprint that you need to go by. watch this movie and try to make your biopic like this. I see so many biopics. Some of them are just boring, not interesting. Sometimes I just don't care about the musician or the songs. This is definitely a case where I really love the music. I really like, the artist. So that definitely helped the movie, rise up for me. But yeah, all the time when it's like he's like in a coffee shop or he's in a concert, he's like, "Hey, let me play this song for you that I just wrote," and then he plays you one of his big hits. That's such a fun moment in the movie, and it happens over and over again. We're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting another Bob Dylan class." Again, if you don't know Bob Dylan, you don't know his music, you might be going, "Is this a big song? Is this a song that people like? Is this a big deal? Is this a big moment?" And if you're like me, every time he sang, I was like, "Oh, I love that song. This is a great song," and I'm so happy I'm getting to listen and kind of watch Chalamet, almost like a performance of Bob Dylan live, in a movie. And yeah, every time he sang, I was like, "Oh man, I love that song. That's a huge song. That's a huge song in his discography." Yeah, so I'm kind of right there. It was like, again, it's a perfect movie for me where I'm just like, it's hitting everything I love about movies and music. It combines my love of movies and my love of music just perfectly for me, I guess. That's why I was really loving it. And just and Bob Dylan's story is actually very interesting. I thought they did such a good job. Like, how do you tell the story? Well, you tell it by talking about how you kind of see him just in 3 year span go from a nobody to being famous. And so I love that when you see that, like, what his personality is much different at the beginning. At the end, he's a real jerk, very arrogant. He's wearing sunglasses all the time. He looks very pretentious, and he's just this guy. It's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I don't care about the audience, or I don't care about other people." And so you kind of like, "Okay, Bob Dylan, you're just, you're laying on a little thick there, but he does change the music scene. I mean, he's so influential to music, and you see that in the movie. I think they do a good job showing like how he changed the music world with his style. Anyway, so that's really cool to see on screen and go, "Yeah, they do. This movie needs to be made." And people, if you don't know Bob Dylan, I guess watch this, and hopefully you kind of get an idea of why Bob Dylan's such a big deal and why a lot of us really like him, and why he's so huge in the music and in the music industry and in music history and all that. So yeah, I loved all that. And the movie sounds so good. Like every time he sang, oh man, like they did such a good job with the sound. I think really good sound design where I'm like, man, every performance sounds really great. The guitar sounds great. His singing sounds great. And there's some good duets with him, like Joan Baez, the actress who plays Joan Baez. Johnny Cash makes an appearance in here, and he sings with John Cash, which was really cool. I thought they did a good job there. So like every performance, I was like, yeah, I'm really loving these performances and what they're doing with it. And I love the dynamic of him going from just him on the guitar, his guitar, and at the end he has a backing band. He's playing electric guitar, and that's a big deal. And his music sound different. He's evolving as a musician. The whole movie is about like, everybody wants him just to be this folk singer, and he's like, "No, you're not gonna put me in a box. I'm just gonna be who I want to be, and it might not be someone you like, but I'm gonna do it because that's what I want, and I'm not just gonna do things just to make money or to be commercial." And I kind of liked about the character that he's kind of anti-authority, anti-establishment type character. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do some blues music. I'm gonna do some folk music, some folk rock, some rock. I'm gonna do things that nobody else put together, and I'm gonna change music," and that's what he did. Anyways, I know I go a long time about it because I already did a review about him, so I'm just repeating myself. But man, really love this movie, and I should have to say, Timothée Chalamet, what a great performance. He totally lost himself in the role, and he did feel like Bob Dylan. Like I don't know if Bob Dylan said these things or acted this way, but from what I know of Bob Dylan, I was like, yeah, he definitely captured the spirit of Bob Dylan and the way he talked and his attitude and all that. And then the singing, because we know he can sing in real life. Timothée Chalamet sang before in movies. So that was really cool. I thought he did a good job with the singing. And I don't know if he played the guitar. I think he probably played the guitar as well. If so, it's like, yeah, this definitely was an Oscar performance where he did the character, looked like him. He looked just like Bob Dylan. He sounded like him. He sang and played guitar like him. So definitely a great, great performance from Chalamet. Definitely get an Oscar nomination. I want to say I kind of hope he wins the Oscar. I think it's such a good performance. Obviously, it's my favorite movie of the year. Love to see this movie get nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor and all that. Edward Norton does a good job as well. Elle Fanning does a great job in the movie. Overall, great performances, really well directed too. I think James Mangold did a great job with the movie, shot very well. Yeah, I was on the whole movie. I was just, I was just smiling ear to ear. Loving every bit of it, and even the end, I thought it did a good job of ending it, because it's like it's not the end of Bob Dylan, it's just the end of this period of his life where he changed his music from folk to folk rock and all that. Anyways, can't say enough. Love this movie, A Complete Unknown, my favorite movie of the year. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts on I know you're gonna be shocked by some of my picks, and some of you are gonna go, yeah, I knew that was your favorite. Hopefully, I wanted to mention some honorable mentions actually. Again, I didn't put any movies from streaming services, so I want to mention some here. Wolves on Apple Plus. I really like this movie with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. Really funny movie actually, and really well done. Like that. Unfrosted, a movie by Jerry Seinfeld on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie. Another really funny movie that probably could have made this list, but since it's a streaming service, I didn't put it there. Hitman, another really good movie, I think, on Netflix. Glenn Powell playing the main character. I think Glenn Powell is so good. One of the best performances of the year. Definitely he's a star. He's going to be a huge star, I think, the next couple of years on that. And then also Saturday Night, which is a movie that came out. I'm a big fan of Saturday Night Live, so that was fun to watch. It definitely had some problems, but overall it was a fun movie, Saturday Night. Bad Boys Ride or Die. I actually thought it was actually a decent movie, another action movie with some comedy in it. I'm not a big Bad Boys fan, but I thought it was a decent movie overall. And the last honorable mention is going to be Despicable Me 4, which you're like, Despicable Me 4? Like, yeah, I had fun with it. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the series necessarily. I do love the first Despicable Me movie, but this is actually my favorite in the series, I would say, out of the four. Definitely, I think had some fun moments in it. And yeah, again, I laughed, had some fun with it. It made my honorable mention. So yeah, that's my honorable mentions. Besides that, yeah, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for liking it. Please tell me what was your favorite movie of the year. Love to hear your thoughts. Besides that, I hope everybody has a great rest of the year and a great new year. All from me, Jason the Old Millennial. And thank you to all subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you, and have a good